Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Books Podcast with your host, Gloria and Rogan. And today we're excited to dive into a special book with you. We've picked this one because it has some really important lessons to share, and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started. Ready to dive into some law of attraction stuff? We're tackling The Secret by Rhonda Byrne today.
Oh yeah, this one's a classic. Should we assume most people listening have bumped into the law of attraction idea before?
Probably safe to say that. So no need to spend tons of time on the basics. Let's just jump right into the good stuff, the interesting stuff, all that.
Sounds good to me. Where should we even begin with this one? So much to unpack.
Well, I think a good place to start might be with the whole don't want epidemic Byrne talks about. It's like she's pointing out this thing we all do without even realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that thing where you're constantly worrying about money, right? Like, I don't want to be broke, but Byrne's saying that by focusing on that, we might actually be attracting more of that very thing.
It's like we're accidentally putting in an order to the universe for more of what we don't want.
Exactly. And she backs this up with stories too. Remember the one about Robert, the student?
Oh, yeah. He was in a really tough spot dealing with difficult coworkers and stuff.
And he was feeling super negative about it all. Who wouldn't? But instead of getting stuck in that rut, he decided to shift his focus.
So instead of dwelling on the negativity, he started focusing on what he did want in his work life.
Right. The supportive environment, respect from his peers, all of that. And gradually, things started to change for him.
It's like his reality started to mirror his new, more positive focus.
It really makes you wonder, though, what if he'd stayed stuck in that negative mindset?
Yeah, would things have just stayed the same? It's almost like Byrne compares it to, like, gravity, you know?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's a law of the universe.
Yeah.
It's not personal. You jump, you come down, you focus on the negative. Well,
You tend to attract more negativity. It's like the law of attraction is simply responding to whatever signal we're putting out there.
okay, so imagine this, right? Like, our thoughts are emitting this specific Wi-Fi signal, and the universe is like, okay, receiving that loud and clear, let me find more devices on that same channel.
I like that analogy.
Yes.
But it gets even weirder. Byrne takes this concept and tries to tie it to quantum physics, which is where things can get a bit murky.
Yeah, she starts talking about quantum physicists like Dr. Fred Alan Wolf and how our minds might actually play a role in shaping reality.
You ever heard of the observer effect? It's a quantum physics thing.
Vaguely, yeah. It's like when the very act of observing something changes it, right?
Exactly. And what Dr. Wolf and The Secret propose is that our thoughts might actually function as that observer on a much larger scale.
Hold on, are we saying that if I just sit here thinking about winning the lottery really hard, it'll just magically happen?
Well, I don't think it's quite that simple. But what The Secret is getting at is that our thoughts and beliefs might influence our reality in ways we don't fully grasp.
So it's not about wishing things into existence without any effort, but rather our thoughts influencing our actions, our perceptions, and ultimately maybe even the opportunities that come our way.
Right, it's more nuanced than just think it and it will come.
Yeah,
But it does make you think twice about the power of our thoughts, right?
absolutely. It's like that old saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Our beliefs really do shape our reality, even if it's not always as literal as, like, manifesting a winning lottery ticket.
And that raises a big question. If our thoughts do have this energy, this frequency, what exactly are we sending out into the world with each one?
Right. That's a powerful thought. And it kind of leads us to the next big question. If we can accidentally attract negativity, how do we flip that and start attracting the things we do want?
And that's where The Secret's more practical techniques come in, which I think we should dive into.
Okay, so let's hold that thought for a sec. So how do we do it? How do we actually start attracting what we do want? Byrne seems to put a lot of stock in visualization.
She does. Big time. But it's not just daydreaming, just kind of picturing it. It's about really feeling it.
Okay, so like if I want that dream job, it's not enough to just picture myself in a fancy office.
Right, right. It's about more than that. You've got to tap into the feeling of it, the excitement of the work itself, that feeling of accomplishment, even just picturing what it would feel like to walk into that office every day.
So I should be engaging all my senses. Like, what does it smell like in there? What does my desk feel like?
Exactly. The more real you can make it in your mind, the more you start to align your energy with it.
And The Secret actually has this really interesting story about a guy who accidentally did this with his dream home.
Yeah, this one's wild, man. Apparently, this guy had been, sketching out his ideal home for years.
Wait, just sketching? He wasn't even trying to manifest it.
Nope, not consciously anyway.
Yeah.
But then, years later, he stumbles upon one of his old drawings.
Don't leave me hanging?
The drawing is almost an exact match for the house he's living in, the house he built after those sketches, without even realizing the connection.
Wow, that's kind of spooky. But, okay, I have to ask. Isn't there a risk of, like, taking this too far? What if I start visualizing myself winning Olympic gold, but I haven't exactly been training for it?
Well, that's where action comes in. It's like this. Visualization is planting the seed,
Oof.
but you still have to water it, right? You have to give it sunlight.
So it's not enough to just sit around and wish for things. We have to actually put in the work.
Exactly. Think of it more like this. The universe picks up on what you want and then tries to guide you toward it.
So it's like, all right, I see you. Here's an opportunity. Now go make it happen.
That's the gist, yeah. And that's where this idea of acting as if comes into play, too.
Okay, remind me about that one.
So, like, there's that story in the book about this guy who always finds amazing parking spots, right?
Oh, right. Is he just like the luckiest guy ever, or?
Maybe. But his thing was he just believed that the perfect spot would always be there waiting for him.
So he didn't stress about it. He didn't drive around the parking lot a million times.
Nope. He just expected it, and it usually happened. Now, whether that's the law of attraction or just a confident mindset, who knows? But it shows how much our expectations can influence our experiences.
It's about aligning those thoughts, beliefs, actions, and this is where gratitude comes in too, right? Byrne talks a lot about that.
Huge part of it. But she doesn't see it as just this nice thing to do. For her, gratitude's a powerful tool. Like it shifts our energy.
So instead of focusing on what we don't have, we're appreciating what we do have.
Exactly. It's like we're telling the universe, hey, we're good here. We're open to receiving more good stuff.
Okay, this next one I've got to ask about. She mentions this guy who carried around a gratitude rock. A rock.
Yeah, I know, right? Sounds a little out there.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, whenever he touched it, he'd think of something he was grateful for.
Did it work?
Well, he said that doing that, focusing on gratitude that way, seemed to coincide with his son's health improving. Now, does that equal causation? Maybe not. But it at least shows how a simple practice like that can change your mindset. And who knows, maybe even your energy.
It's that whole what you focus on expands idea.
Right. But it's bigger than just us, right? This whole law of attraction thing, it affects more than just our personal lives.
You're talking about how Byrne believes it can impact the world as a whole. So it's like there's this collective law of attraction thing happening. And our own thoughts, good or bad, actually contribute to shaping the world around us.
That's the idea, yeah. And she uses Mother Teresa as an example, which is interesting.
Because she dedicated her life to peace and compassion, right?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
she wouldn't even attend those anti-war rallies. She was all about focusing on the positive, actively participating in peace rallies instead.
It's like she was consciously choosing to align her energy with the outcome she wanted to see in the world, not the one she didn't.
Right. And it makes you think about how often, like especially these days, we get bombarded with all this negativity, you know?
It's true. Every time you turn on the news, it's like, oh, here's another thing to be scared or angry about.
Yeah. And Byrne talks about how she actually stopped following the news altogether because it was just too much.
Can't say I blame her. But then isn't there a risk of being, like, out of touch with what's going on in the world?
That's the balance we all have to figure out, right? Jack Canfield, who Byrne also quotes in the book, he talks about this.
Oh, what does he say?
He suggests being more mindful about the stuff we consume, like choosing sources that offer a more balanced perspective, you know?
So not just doom scrolling all day.
Exactly. And maybe even actively looking for positive news stories, stories of hope
Keep
and
saying-
inspiration, things like that.
Because what you focus on expands, right?
It's true on a personal level and maybe even on a global one, if you believe what The Secret is saying.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. Speaking of wrapping your head around stuff, there's that one line in the book that always gets me.
Oh, you mean the you are God in a physical body one?
Yeah, that's the one. Every time I read that, I'm like, hold on, am I supposed to be performing miracles now?
It's a bit much, right?
Yeah.
But I think what she's getting at, and what a lot of these law of attraction folks talk about, is just how much power we actually have in shaping our own reality.
So it's less about being a deity and more about recognizing the potential within each of us.
Right. It's like we're not just these helpless beings at the mercy of fate. We have a say in how things unfold.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, which then influence our beliefs, our actions, and so on.
Exactly. And that could be a really empowering realization if you really let it sink in.
It's like maybe, just maybe, we're all capable of way more than we think.
That's what The Secret seems to be suggesting, right?
Yeah.
That we can create lives that are even more amazing than we can imagine.
Well, this deep dive into The Secret has been quite the journey. We talked about the power of thought, the importance of gratitude, visualization techniques, and even how this stuff might play out on a global scale.
Definitely got us thinking, right?
It sure has. And hey, if nothing else, it's a good reminder to be mindful of the thoughts we choose to focus on and the energy we're putting out into the world.
Because in the end, maybe those things really do make a difference. Who knows? It's an adventure figuring it all out.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care and keep learning, keep growing.